Hi everyone, welcome back to our YouTube channel. And a couple of us during this lockdown, we've not really had so much to do. We decided to get together and share some of our opinions, some of our thoughts on a very controversial, often repeated topic in Niger Med Twitter, in clinical school in Nigeria, and that's the topic of whether favoritism exists or not. So I'm Olaoluwa and I have
Jachi
and Mark. So please, these are personal opinions. Don't hold it against Penny Kala. No, we are just sharing some of our thoughts. So you guys, what do you think? Do you think favoritism exists in medical school or clinical school in Nigeria?
Of course, I think so. Yes.
That's more of you.
But I think nothing is black or white. I feel like favoritism exists because of some reasons.
Okay.
Or, based on some, foundations. Yeah.
So before we go further into that, black or white, contextual, philosophical, yada yada, what do you define as favoritism?
I would say favoritism is unfair preferential treatment to a particular group of people for some reason, in my opinion.
So if there is a reason for favoritism, is it still favoritism if there's like a reason or a backing for it?
Exactly. We can't say it is strictly just favoritism. You get my point? There's a reason for it, so it's not just there's some factors that contribute to it. So it's not just about favoritism now. We have to talk about some other contributing factors, in my opinion.
Personally, I think that the word is favoritism. Yeah. So whether or not there's a reason, fact that it exists. So yeah. So now the reasons could be very different things, but the question is that does it exist? Yes, it exists. So I don't think that it's an issue of is there a reason for it or no reason for it. It exists. As far as I'm concerned, I think it exists, and whether the reasons are justifiable or not, whether reasons are fair or not fair, it doesn't change the fact that it exists. So if person A is favored over person B, or group A is favored over group B because of whatever reason, no matter how justifiable, it doesn't change the fact that they were not treated on equal and fair grounds. That's what I don't know. That's what I feel.
I still maintain that nothing is black or white.
Wait.
Thank you.
Wait. So, from your, I think you are in 400 of them
I'm
now.
500.
I'm sorry. Have you come across any examples of favoritism while you've been in school?
Sure, I've come across a number. In fact, I have slightly benefited from favoritism. But like I said, there are some foundations or some, backing to it. So yes, of course, I've seen.
Before we get to those foundations, are you interested in sharing one or two of these examples?
Well, it's the small things as well as the big things. For example, maybe we have limited number of seats or something, and then someone or an SR, asks the guys to stand and we girls get to sit. Or some things like presentations. We have maybe they have to take limited amount of presentations, and then we girls present first, or because we have been on the board round, and then we get to present first.
Mad chill.
Because we have been present, so we get to present first, and then I guess so. And even I think there was one particular experience. I think a member of my group, wanted to get something. Maybe I think it was a letter, and he kept going and he couldn't get it. But when I showed up, and I was very polite and I was very, so I was able to get a letter from him, and he's grateful till today.
So Mark, what about you? Have you seen any?
I've seen a lot of things.
You just one or two.
First of all, there's that one about seats. I think it's very annoying. Yeah. So every time you're on the ward round, maybe you start teaching and then you ask the boys to stand so that the girl can. There's no reason. The girl is not ill or anything.
She's not the weaker gender.
Ma'am?
The lady is not the weaker gender.
No, we are equal. There's no such thing as a weaker gender or anything. So she's not ill. She's not. And then you ask someone to stand up when the person got the seat himself most of the time. So that exists. Then there's also the issue of, for example, signing. Signing becomes very hard most of the time. If a guy is the head of the group or the group rep, most of the time to get signatures it becomes easier if he has to go with a girl. These things are, I don't know, they are annoying, and of course we know that there are different reasons why these things can exist or not exist, and all of that. But I have seen a lot of, and there are some that we cannot actually talk about on here, but we know that these things happen.
So, what would you say is the basis of favoritism? What do you think is the major, or what do you think are the causes of favoritism generally?
Well, for me personally, due to no particular research, I don't think any research proves it or anything, but I think that generally society is structured in such a way that if a girl asks for something and a boy asks for the same thing, most people tend to, are inclined to wanting to oblige the girl more than the boy. So if a girl says in school or on a ward round that she's tired and she needs to go to upstairs to get something, I think that maybe, I don't know, in the mind of the registrar or senior registrar or consultant, the girl most likely has a very legitimate reason why she's asking for that. But most of the time for a boy it may not necessarily be so, because I don't know, there's the tendency to assume that the boy is just lazy or just, I don't know. So there are different reasons, and these things sometimes it may be that this person has had experiences with a lot of boys that makes him want to assume that this boy is just up to no good, that the other person that he has not met is up to no good, and it may just be other reasons, but I don't know. So these things happen. And
so you think societal structures, society as a whole has seeped into medical school as a unit, and that affects how most senior colleagues see boys and girls?
Yes, of course. You can't, of course, because you can't separate society from med school. So it's affected how we view things and all of that, and I think it affects how we now, maybe knowingly or unknowingly. Of course, there are also other issues. Of course, there are issues with, maybe, for example, say SRA has maybe interest in particular female students in the group. Of course, you would expect that the way he would treat that particular girl might not necessarily be the same way he would treat other members of the group, especially the boys in the group. So I think it's just basically all of these factors combined that.
But do you think that the general notion that guys are just unserious elements also plays a major role in favoritism in medical school?
First of all, I think that is hasty generalization. I think it's unfair, because you just say guys are generally unserious. For example, in a class of 100, in a typical medical structure in Nigeria, in a class of 100, you probably have like 70 boys. You can't tell me that every time you go to a class, you have like 40 people, which would mean that like 30 people there are girls, then maybe another 10 are boys. Most of the time, you have more than 75% of the class present, which means that most of the boys are present. But it's just easy when you have assumed something to be true in your head, you just continue to believe it. So I think that when a student is generally not serious, but maybe boys may generally tend to, for a lot of boys, tend to be more daring to do certain things. And again, it's easy to reach these conclusions because if you are in a school where, for example, out of every 10 students, 7 are boys, it's easier to note when boys, it's easier to assume that boys miss school a lot more. Because, for example, if one girl is not in school, you still have 2 girls present, yeah. So it doesn't look like a lot of girls are missing school. But if out of 7, the sample space is larger. So out of 7, what's the possibility that 3 people will not be in school on a particular day? So it's not necessarily that boys are more prone to being unserious. Maybe, but I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you do not have any objective proof to show that boys are generally unserious. Because for every boy you want to point out that is unserious, I think I could point out another boy that is very, very serious, maybe even serious to a fault.
Okay, Jachi, what about you? What do you feel?
Well, you guys have said most of my points. I mean, I just enlighten you more. I don't have research to back this up, but I have experience, and I've been in many postings and many groups, and I can tell you for a fact that when we are calling someone to come for word round, it's a boy we are calling to come for word round.
Every time.
Every time.
But then, like Mark
It's
has
hardly
said,
a girl.
if you have 7 boys and you have 3 girls, the probability that you're going to call a boy for being late is higher.
So, but why does the boy have to be the one we are calling? Do you understand? Like, I've been in groups where equal number of girls, even more girls than boys,
So are you saying that you've never had to call girls?
to come.
So if there are on 10 occasions,
I can't remember.
on 10 occasions, if you have to call somebody to call for a word round, it will always be boys.
Most times,
Yes,
8
of
out
course,
of 10, it's a
because
boy.
we are using a sample space of 7 boys, 3 girls. So 8 out of 10 being
Mhm.
boy. I think it's logical to expect that.
No, but like when a girl is not present, you know that you don't even have to call her, and she's most times she will make that presentation or round or work. But from experience, I don't know your experience, but this is my experience. Most times, as group rep and assistant group rep, I'm calling a boy most times to come for word round. That's one. And you mentioned the point of the girl, wanting something that the boy wants, and then the SR says, oh, okay. But I feel like you guys set yourself up for those kind of things. I mean, if SRs have seen how, what's the word now? Maybe deceptful or cunning, some excuses that some guys come. I've heard ridiculous excuses, asthma, appendicitis. I've heard ridiculous. Someone even brought an inhaler, to show that I have asthma.
Do you think girls do not give excuses?
I have not seen. Maybe,
Wow.
but I know what you guys will say is menstrual.
No, we didn't say it though. We didn't say it though. You said
you guys
it
will say
yourself.
menstrual pain.
You
and
said
all.
it yourself.
But it is legit. We have menstrual pain.
So are you
the doctor that-
are you alluding to the fact that
You don't
every lady who takes an excuse from school on the basis of PMS actually has PMS?
It's once a month, so I'm sure you'd be certain whether the person is lying or not. I mean, if the person is taking multiple excuses for PMS, it's not possible. But if the person is taking once in a month, then it's real. I mean, from experience, I don't see girls lying most times for PMS.
All right.
It happens.
I'm going to give a scenario which does not take the population of students or coming to school into consideration.
Okay.
We have a male and a female student who, they are both from ground zero, right? And because I've seen this, it has happened to me before, where the two of us go to sign for a particular thing. Now, I'm assuming that in this context, we've thrown away whether this person has been on serious. The two of us went for this procedure or whatnot, and then we've gotten maybe a proof of evidence that we are there. Then the girl gets she gets a better treatment than the guy. So in this context, would you say boys being on serious or whatnot affects this? And then will you throw away the role that not sexual harassment, but sexual interest has to play in favoritism?
Well, you said it's what you have seen. I can't say I have seen that. The girl being favored, I feel like most times in medical school, we have a group of people going at once for something and they all get it at the same time. If that maybe the particular senior colleague, an SR or a registrar, feels like, he has an interest in that female and he wants to favor her over him, then, that's one of the reasons I was talking about that, it's one of the causes of favoritism. You get my point?
Okay, now
I'm not saying because this is hypothetical.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying the guy did anything to warrant that, but that is on the part of the senior colleague that chooses to, do that thing. You understand? I'm not faulting anybody, but I've not seen that happen. I've not experienced that.
So what you're saying is that if a guy and a girl go to a female SR, both of them have been attending school, and yet the lady gets a better treatment rather. She gets favored from that female SR, that female reg, that female consultant. do your reasons for favoritism, do they still stand in that context? Because the female is not sexually attracted, we've ruled out the being unserious thing from it.
Okay. Like I said, your examples are hypothetical. So in that situation, maybe yes, we wouldn't say, but I hardly see that. I mean, from our experience as medical students, I feel like when it's a female senior colleague, you find that the guys are favored. I don't know. I've seen it. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I've seen it multiple times. If it's a woman that is maybe on call, well, I mean, sometimes I've seen that she pays more attention to the guys. I don't know why it happens that way, but I feel like it's something that happens. I've not seen a woman favor another female, maybe because that female, was present and she was hardworking and she contributed to, very well to the work or something. Maybe that is why. In that situation, yeah, probably. But I mean, but you guys will agree with me that the proportion of girls that show up and work, it's higher than that of guys in medical school. Let's not pretend like we are not all seeing these things every day. The proportion of girls that do the hard work, and I'm not saying some guys are not hard working, but the proportion, I mean, it's mostly girls.
Well, so maybe to wrap this up from my own side, I think the issue is not whether guys miss school or not and all of those. The issue is that if I miss school or if I fault, if I get punished for it, it's fine, right? But we are saying that two people, a boy and a girl, have done exactly the same thing. They came to school at the same time, they attended lectures together. There's still chances that, so for example, we attended the same ward round and had to wait for teaching after that ward round. So this is not an issue of me missing school or not, but I was told to stand up for a girl to sit, right? So that's where we're talking about that. So we're not talking about the fact that I missed school and I got punished for it. I'm talking about the fact that I did nothing except that I was a boy in that situation.
So we all know that clinical school is, I mean, aside the academics, so do you think, then let's not even ignore the elephant in the room, that's possible, like you treat by barter, sexual favors, your return for possible. So do you think favoritism in the long run affects performance in clinical school?
I feel like there are many factors that contribute to your performance in medical school. Let's take, for example, a subjective, like you said, subjective viva. I mean, you're not talking to one person in that room. You're talking to a number of consultants. I don't think at the end of the day your academic performance is as a result of favoritism.
But then, sorry to interject, you agree that medical school also, as much as it's beyond one person, medical school has a lot of tipping points. You have just one minor factor that can push you over the edge. You get your 50.1, you get your 51.
Okay, I'm giving for instances now. Maybe when it comes to signing, maybe we can see that. But I feel like hard work, has a role to play in your booklet and your signing. But for exam conditions, in my opinion, I feel like many people contribute to your final score. So it's not about favoritism, like being the basis of how you perform at the end of the day. I think there are so many factors. So you can't say because this consultant likes a girl or something, then no, that girl is going to be examined by multiple consultants for a period of time. So I don't think you can say.
But do you agree that it gives you an edge or not?
In exam setting, I don't think so.
I said academic performance. Academic performance in clinical school is beyond the exam. You have to qualify, for example, to write an exam.
See, if it's not the exam, then it's either a test or your booklet. So you're talking about your booklet now. I mean, I don't think so, because our booklets are the hard work we put into it. If you're present at something, you get signed for it. If you go for something, you get signed for it. If you clamor to present to an SR or a consultant, you will get signed for it. So I don't think being a female contributes to your academic performance in the long run. That's my opinion.
Alright, what about you, Mark?
Well, personally, I feel that the truth would be that if you're talking about academic performance, whether it adds to it or not, Well, I would say even if it does, it's probably not like significant. Yes, it could help that maybe if a person is at the end of a particular posting or something, maybe it helps to make the posting easier for the person. The fact that there was some bits of favoritism here and there, and maybe made it a bit harder for somebody else, right? But I think that in the end, the person would still, of course, would arrive. So if we're looking for maybe 7 signatures, maybe you got 8 and you got them so easily. I would eventually still get 8, but maybe I have to work like harder than you did in the end. So, but of course, maybe of course there'll be other people's personal stories that and experiences that we cannot, negate. But I'm speaking on a very general term, and from what I have seen, I don't think it affects academic performance in itself, because I mean, most people that eventually do well in medical school, you'll see that they have a track record that they've been doing well over time. So, and you cannot say that it's one particular consultant somewhere or SR somewhere that influenced the entire school to make sure that this person did. So I don't think so. But maybe it makes things easier, but not that it gives one edge such that if you now get a distinction, I now see that the reason why you got the distinction and I did not pass my own exam is because you were favored. I don't think so.
Alright guys, there you have it, our opinions, our thoughts on favoritism in medical school. What do you think? Do you think favoritism exists? Do you think it's reduced to sexual harassment? You can drop a comment for us in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, don't forget to share. Thank you very much for sticking with us. Our next topic, do you think doctor-student relationships should be allowed? Thank you.